Welcome to Kirkkonummi. Kirkkonummi is a district near the capital enjoying rapid growth. Its rich history and diverse nature offer visitors a wide range of experiences. This tour has been funded by Västnyländska Kultursamfundet as an EU project. The Porkkala Parenthesis. Throughout the ages, the Porkkala Peninsula has been a central point for shipping in the Gulf of Finland. Militarily too, the Gulf of Finland at its narrowest point has been of interest. The strategically placed peninsula was also later to give its name to the Soviet naval base, the construction of which originally started during the Russian era to protect St. Petersburg. In accordance with the ceasefire agreement signed in Moscow on the 19th of September 1944, Porkkala was to be leased out to the Soviet Union for 50 years. The area consisted of 380 square kilometers of land, most of Kirkkonummi including the Porkkala Peninsula and Upinniemi, the whole municipality of Degerby, and parts of Espoo, Siuntio and Ingo. Including the sea territories, the leased area consisted of about 1,000 square kilometers. The approximately 7,300 inhabitants were given 10 days to leave the area. The majority chose to stay in the neighboring areas or were granted land further away. People took whatever they could, household utensils, animals and agricultural tools, whatever they could manage. The Porkkala Parenthesis meant the abandonment of a fertile, richly cultivated agricultural area which had been long of great importance in providing the capital Helsinki with food. A significant problem then arose for South Coast traffic, since the coastal railway, roads and shipping routes all crossed the military area. The situation was eased for rail traffic in 1947, when the coastal railway between Helsinki and Turku was given permission to recommence services. For security reasons, the carriage windows had to be blinded, giving rise to the talk of the world's longest tunnel. The purpose of the base was primarily to provide an effective barrier to the waters leading to what then was Leningrad. Moreover, the Soviet Union also maintained a firm hold over the southern coast of the Gulf of Finland. Secondly, it provided extremely powerful political pressure. With the cannons on the base, the Russians were perfectly capable of targeting Helsinki. One autumn day in 1955, word went around that the Soviet Union was to leave its naval base on the Porkkala Peninsula. The Soviet-leased area of about 1,000 square kilometers was being returned to Finland. Coverage in the international press was enormous when Finnish troops re-entered the area on the 26th of January 1956. Few of those who had been forced to leave their homes had believed they would ever see them again. The Soviet garrison's strength has been estimated at a good 10,000 men, but including civilians, the number stationed in the area at its height may well have been as much as 3 times that. The area housed 4 regiments and other special units, 100 or so tanks, and an airfield for jet fighters. Following the collapse of the Soviet Union, people who lived or stayed at the base have told of a quite ordinary garrison life. Officers with families were given their own houses. There was little to make the time pass, and homesickness was rife. Those who stayed there have remained more or less unknown. One of the few exceptions is Olympic gold medal winner Vladimir Kuts, who had begun his running career in Porkkala by winning the divisional championship at the Kirkkonummi sports ground. He later recalled that many of the soldiers there thought that they were stationed just outside Estonia, and that he himself had not known that he was running on Finnish ground. The churches within the area had been annexed to secular purposes and churchyards vandalized. Almost half the housing and the majority of business premises had been destroyed or transported to the Soviet Union, where building supplies were in very short supply owing to the war. During the 11 years of the Porkkala Parenthesis, the fields had grown over, large areas had been cleared of trees, and in places the terrain blown to pieces by bombing. Among other things, barracks, bunkers, quays and roads had been built. Rebuilding began the first summer. By 1960 the majority of the fields had been restored, and it was not long before almost all traces of the Soviet lease had disappeared. The former military area hides hundreds of military remains of historical interest. The border crossed Espoo to Lake Humaljärvi, through the Meikko wilderness to Siuntio, and from there to Ingo and Degerby. Boundary markers can still be seen on the Lake Meikko rocks. Old barbed wire can be found on the south side of the boundary, and the Meikko Lake shore is edged with bunkers guarding the border. These are usually placed on the edges of cliffs or hillocks to make them more difficult to distinguish from the natural landscape. The car park for the Meikko recreational area is in Kirkkonummi at the end of the Kvarnby road. From here pathways lead westwards towards the lake. The path to the eastern shore leads to the most extensive bunkers on the northeastern side. Depending on which way you choose to go, you can walk for a few kilometers. The Meikko wilderness is a protected area owing to its unique nature. Paths and fireplace facilities are provided for tourists.